This was once a top-secret military installation, right here on the prairie in South Dakota. Just look at this place. Nothing but empty prairie all the way around. I grew up during the Cold War. People my age will remember when we rehearsed bomb blast drills in grade school. For us, it was as normal as a fire drill. I don't think that the nuclear blast procedure was any different than our preparations for an earthquake drill. We would practice diving under our desks to hide from the fallout. Duck and cover, they called it.
Remember what to do, friends. Now tell me right out loud. What are you supposed to do when you see the flash? Duck and cover. Duck and cover.
That probably wouldn't have been very effective, but hey, what did I know? I was in first grade. As I grew older and into adulthood, we citizens followed news stories about arms treaty negotiations with interests, but we compartmentalized the sheer firepower which existed on both sides. I never really gave much thought to where we kept our firepower, but it turns out that it was right here, hiding in plain sight, in the middle of cornfields here on the prairie in South Dakota. So with that pretext, it was almost surreal to pull off the freeway about an hour east of Rapid City and find this visitor center, run by the National Park Service, which tells the story of the missiles which once were buried beneath the farmland here and aimed squarely at the Soviets. Welcome to the Minuteman Missile National Historic Site. Of the over 500 National Park Service sites across the country, this location out in the middle of the prairie in South Dakota has got to be one of the most unusual. I mean, this is a site preserving the history of nuclear missile silos. But in reality, it's more like a museum to the Cold War. The Cold War refers to that 4 decades of tense conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union that began in the last part of the 1940s after the end of World War II. The United States and the Soviets had fought together as allies against the Nazis, but that alliance was only an alliance of convenience against a common enemy. The two nations were economic and military rivals, but fortunately, we now know that the conflict never turned hot. Thus, the Cold War was a conflict which was waged without shooting at or bombing each other. But during those years, it always seemed like war could be a very real possibility. Both sides maintained a posture of readiness, prepared for an instantaneous, swift response to any attack or provocation by the other side. And a key element to that credible response was the ability to fire nuclear weapons from an ocean away and hit targets accurately. To this end, the United States built dozens of silos buried deep into the farmland and filled them with missiles. The missiles were pointed at cities and military targets in the Soviet Union and elsewhere beyond the Iron Curtain, ready to carry out the mutually assured destruction that was the cornerstone of the defense posture of both countries. Don't shoot a nuclear missile at us, because we can shoot back and we'll both be wiped out. If you didn't live through that era, the whole concept may seem a little crazy, but in hindsight, we know that it did work because we're all still here to talk about it. The visitor center here is a baby boomer time capsule with exhibits depicting everyday middle American home life from that era and how we coped with the sword of Damocles hanging overhead. Here's the family room, with a television showing black and white news footage from the era. The wallpaper looks like it could have come from the Brady house. Here's an area devoted to what it was like for the men who were stationed in the silos. They called them the Missileers. One of them even painted the blast doors in the style of Domino's Pizza, promising quick delivery within 30 minutes. There's this room-sized chart depicting the number of nuclear warheads held by each side year by year, and a timeline of the arms race with significant events in each of those years, like the fits and starts of arms limitation treaties and crises and hotspots, such as the Cuban Missile Blockade. Here's a chunk from the Berlin Wall. For a history buff like me, this place is right up my alley. The big players from the Cold War are all here, from JFK to Reagan and Khrushchev to Gorbachev on the Soviet side. The National Park Service always creates exceptional visitor displays. It's a very well-done exhibition with lots of historic photos and audio-visual presentations, but you can easily see the whole thing in under an hour.
Our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet.
There were 150 silos scattered across this corner of South Dakota, with more than a dozen different launch command centers. One of those launch command facilities, about 10 miles away, has been preserved and is open for tours. It's a chance to go down into one of those top secret sites and see what the duty was like for those guys who spent 24-hour shifts in these isolated cellars. Capacity is extremely limited because these things were tiny, so reservations are required. As always, a National Park Service visit ends with a visit to the gift shop where you can pick up your nuclear missile t-shirts and magnets. This gift shop isn't huge, it's just an alcove at the side of the information desk, but it'll have the collectibles you want from such an unusual place. And I closed out my visit with another stamp in my National Parks passport book. The Visitor Center is open Tuesday through Saturday all throughout the year, even in South Dakota's frigid winters, and admission is free, so you can't beat that price. The site is located right along Interstate 90, just about an hour west of Rapid City, at exit number 131. It's really easy to combine the Minuteman Missile Historic Site into a day trip while visiting the Badlands and Wall Drugs, because it's located right along the Loop Road. Or, if you're driving across the state, just to pop in and stretch your legs for an hour. Have you been to the Minuteman Missile Historic Site? What did you think? Leave a comment to share your opinions with your fellow travelers. If you enjoyed this video, I thank you for watching. And actually, I guess I'm thankful that you watched it even if you didn't like it. But if you did, won't you please consider clicking on the thumbs up? That helps YouTube to decide to share it with more people who might like it too. I like mixing history and geography with travel. That's what I do here on Postcard Dan. So if you like the content on my channel, I'd be honored to have you as a subscriber.